One of the most asked questions on the requirements for to have an aura transformation, we have this requirement of 6 months without the consumption of marijuana, plant medicine, or any drug before having an aura transformation, and with the intention of maybe not having any of those anymore because we don't need it. We're having the intention of quitting them. We don't really rely on them and we don't depend on them. So we're not addicted to any of those, any of these drugs or recreational drugs or non-recreational drugs. So my intake on this, and I'm gonna kind of focus on the most popular ones, but this really goes on to all of them because energetically or in the feeling of it is kind of the same for all of them. But what I intake as a person, my intake on it as a person that used to consume marijuana a lot and have done microdosing of mushrooms before and done a lot of mushrooms, non-microdosing, recreationally, and for self-understanding and self-exploration. What I find in these is that I am connecting with another consciousness to tell me about my wounds, to tell me about my energy, to tell me about myself. So I am using another consciousness to give me guidance on myself. When used like ayahuasca to give us insights or to give us or to connect us to this and that. So the thing is, and as a marijuana person that smoked a lot of marijuana at some point in my life, I felt that at some point in my life it did kind of activate some self-awareness on myself and self-reflection and on my own spiritual understanding of things. But using all these plants to guide us beyond that, like they activate certain things, and I'm not gonna deny that they do sometimes for some of us, not for everybody. But then at the same time, they are another consciousness that is telling us something. So at the end of my journey with marijuana, I was receiving for like few years with marijuana and even alcohol, I was receiving a lot of red flags, like stop from my own body because this plant was giving me insecurity all the time. It's like poking on the wound. It was like poking and so I was always listening to this chatter that was bringing me insecurity. It was like this chatter that was not helpful. So now as a practitioner, emotion code practitioner and as my own self-development really dive deeper on myself and really releasing these things and really harnessing more self-love and self-nourishing, I have really found that these these plants were actually causing me to become more disconnected from myself. And it was also poking and fragmenting me in many ways. So shrooms was also very helpful. One time that I did it, and I knew right after the mushrooms experience that I had that I had activated some multisensory thing that I never had felt before. And after my mushroom experience, I felt that I was in mushrooms all the time. So I didn't really need shrooms again. But then because we're always like wanting to do that thing that makes us feel really high or something, I did shrooms a lot, and it was like red flags, like this is not healthy. So I was poking on the wound, so I was fragmenting myself. So when we obsess so much on having another consciousness help us, it's we're using like a crutch to self-discover ourselves. But it's just like everything else, wanting to get answers from someone else when the answers are within. So aura transformation is a modality. It's a natural phenomenon that comes from the new time children, the energy that new time children came with. And it's a natural phenomena that happens within this new time generation aura that naturally shifts our aura, dissolves our old aura, and naturally just upgrades our aura to the new time aura and generation and like new consciousness that is coming in, or the new vehicle of consciousness that's coming in, because it's the vehicle of our consciousness. So it's like our own consciousness is becoming more connected to our body through this new vehicle. So aura transformation is completely opposite from this old time method of needing something else outside of us to guide us to self-discover. Is aura transformation is all about us reclaiming our own spirit and learning about who we are through our own consciousness, through our own self-knowing, through our own purity. So actually, after having my aura transformation and before becoming an aura mediator, I had a time, I had a few times that I tried few puffs of marijuana because I've never been a heavy consumer of marijuana. I'm very sensitive. So just like a few touches of it. And the insight that I gathered from that was that first, it was like the silence and peace and connectedness that I have that is very creative. And I used marijuana back in the days for creativity and connecting with this thing and this and that. I already have that, but it's more settled and it's more clear and it's with myself. While with the marijuana, it feels like I am connecting with these things that is not me. That is, of course, it's fun because it's like all this insightfulness, but it's not me. So does that energy have the same agenda, has the best agenda for me? Don't know. So I feel, and I've always felt this. So when I found Aura Transformation and as I became more transformed and as I've been developing in my journey of becoming more connected with my spirit, becoming more grounded, becoming more subtle, becoming more human, it feels like it's so clear for me that I've always resonated with the self-knowing more than someone else giving me the answer or someone else telling me what my knowing is when I have the knowing. So, aura transformation is all about shifting our vehicle of consciousness to a more upgraded one, which allows us to be more in contact with our spirit. And this itself is completely opposite from having all this plant medicine or other consciousness or drugs or other things being attached to us in order for us to live. So 6 months is the requirement for our transformation. And if we are heavy consumers, intuitively, if you feel like you've consumed a lot and you're like heavily addicted to it, then working on that addiction and balancing it out and taking different routes and different intentions, releasing that, then having also that time or more. So I would recommend more time if we're heavily addicted, like we really cope with it, like it's our coping and anxiety for it. So that is my intake with it. I understand that it's a sensitive topic. Um, I've definitely been grateful to all the awareness that marijuana at some point played for me when I was younger. It really led me to self-explore myself in many ways and also shrooms kind of opening up a sense that I already had. But my inner knowing says that when those plants come to us randomly in our life and it really helped in like the old ways in the old time, those plant medicines come to us in random times to help us explore something, open something, and then we're not meant to play with them all the time because then we're mingling and attaching to those things and we're no longer playing from our own spirit, but we're like almost like being push and pull by that consciousness every day. So I don't think marijuana, plant, and all their plant medicines and all those things are meant to be consumed in repetition and obsessive repetition. I've done it, so I understand that we'll probably have like so much frustration, and I'm gonna do a video on that. We have so much going on that we want to unlock in in quick and that urgency, that sense of urgency made make us do those things. For the creative ones, it's a way of escaping in our own creativity and forget about the world, etc., etc.